This particular lecture is as important as other lectures for the very reason that when you are working as a upper division clerk in the ICR system, I understand that your role where there are no LDCs or at times when there is no assistant. We are fortunate to get some newly recruited assistants in the DR cadre, maybe one or two or maybe a little more in some institutes. But at many institutes, downline LDCs and senior DU assistants are not available. So for this reason, your role as a UDC becomes very important when you move the file. So when you move the file, you have to first understand that we are here to facilitate research. This is a scientific organization and research is the mandate. We are all here to facilitate research, including you and me and DASA. That is, all the dealing hands as well as the administrative and the financial heads. We are here to facilitate the research, but provided we apply the rules. But we have to understand that all these rules have to be applied and interpreted in a positive manner. When you as a UDC, you put up a file with a note. Nowadays we are working in e-office. When you put up a note, you enumerate the facts and figures of that FR. Okay? Whenever an FR comes to you, you put down the details. Then you recommend it for further action. So when you recommend it for the further action to the higher ups, your AO and further to the AO or the AF&O, whoever are there in the hierarchy in your system, you need to understand what are the powers delegated to the higher officials. So that is precisely the reason why you should have, if not a detailed report, but at least a broad overview of what are the financial, administrative and disciplinary powers delegated by the ICR to the officials working at the institute level. Because we are working at the institute level. So we need to understand what are the powers delegated to us. So as for the classification of delegation of powers, by and large, there are mainly three powers. One is administrative, second is financial, and third is disciplinary. Why disciplinary powers one should know is because when there is some issue, okay, regarding a vigilance case or regarding non-performance of duties, dereliction of duties, willful insubordination, you also need to know the disciplinary powers where you have to move the file to a particular authority. So that is the reason, apart from administrative and financial powers, you also have to have some view of the disciplinary powers. So moving forward, delegation of powers means flow of power and not transfer of powers. If the director is delegating a power to me as head of office, that is, he is not delegating a power to me by transferring it, but he is encouraging me to perform a duty. That is delegation of powers. Next is powers may be delegated, not the responsibilities. If I ask my downline, if I ask my AO or an assistant or a UDC to do something, okay, by and large it should be in writing. Sometimes it is also oral, but that does not mean that I am shirking away my responsibility. When a higher authority is delegating a power, the responsibility still remains with the authority. He cannot shirk away the responsibility by saying that, "Nahi, I didn't know, मुझे नहीं पता था, ये तो उन्होंने कर दिया." No, that cannot be done. That cannot be accepted. Third is the disciplinary powers. Again, they cannot be re-delegated. As per the delegation of powers, disciplinary powers cannot be re-delegated. It largely and totally remains with the disciplinary authority. Next. Now the powers as vested by the bylaws of the ICR. ICR is a society, you must be well aware of this, okay? And the bylaws are constituted, and as per the bylaws, the various powers that are delegated is, or we can have a broad outlook of the different authorities at the ICR level, at the headquarters level, the ministry level, as well as the institute level. First and foremost, we have the president. The honorable president is our honorable agricultural minister. He is the ex officio president of the ICAR. Then we have the vice president. The vice president is the minister of state. Then we have the governing body. Now, again, the president ICAR, that is the Honorable AM, is the ex officio president of the governing body. And then you see the director general or secretary there is the chairman of the governing body. He is the chairman of the governing body. Then we have the secretary ICR, we have the DG, and we also have the FA there. Now, secretary ICR is additional secretary to the to the government of India, because there is a department. We all know that we ICR are functioning under the Department of Agriculture, Research and Education. Earlier to 2019, there were three departments. There was Department of Agriculture Cooperation, then we have our Department of Agriculture Research and Education, and there was also the Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy. Now that department has been done away with, and it is a complete ministry altogether. We have the Ministry of Fisheries and Dairy Development. Okay. Now further moving on, we have the Deputy Director Generals. As you all are aware that there are 8 SMDs in the ICR system. SMD is the subject matter division. Okay. We all fall under different SMDs. My earlier colleagues down there at CFT Kochi, they come under the Fisheries SMD. Then some colleagues at grapes, at NRC Grapes in Pune, they come under horticulture. Now me here at NISM Baramati, we come under the Natural Resource Management SMD. Likewise, we have the 8 SMDs. And it is headed by the Deputy Director General and maybe 2 or 3 additional Assistant Director Generals, that is the ADG. Now, going on the top right hand corner, we have the governing body. In the governing body, as I told you earlier, it is headed by the President ICR. Then the chairman is the Director General. There, the Secretary ICR and the FA there are also the members of the governing body. And along with them, there are some eminent personalities from the field of agriculture who are also functioning as the members of the governing body. So it is a very high level body in the ICR system who are very crucial for very key decisions. They also recommend some important facts and important issues to the Honorable President of the ICAR. Then we have the Chairman ASRB and Secretary ASRB. As you all know that our scientific organization, all the scientists, the administrative officer, that is the AO, direct recruit, and the FAO, finance and accounts officer, they are all recruited by the Agricultural Scientist Recruitment Board. That is the top body who recruits all these Group A officers. They also nowadays are recruiting the subject matter specialists, the technical officers of the T6 level. Then in the ASRB, we have the chairman. It is supported by 2 members of the ASRB, and then we have the secretary ASRB. Currently, we have an IAS officer who is functioning as the secretary ASRB. Then we have the various ICR institutes and the NRCs. The NRC is the National Research Center. Okay. So we have 108 ICR units, and NRCs altogether. Then we also have the project directorates, and we also have the Ataris. Under FA there, we have the Deputy Secretary, the Director of Finance, we have Director, then again, your one column out there is missing, that is FA there. So we combine it with Secretary ICR, that is Deputy Secretary, Director of Finance, Director Personnel, who takes care of all the issues of the scientists. Then you have the controller of ASRB, who takes care of the examination part. Then we have the legal advisor. Our colleague from CMFRI, Kochi, has recently been transferred with a very key job there at ICR headquarters as a legal advisor. And then we have the finance and accounts officers. Okay. We have the project coordinators at various institutes. We have the zonal project directors. And in the institute, there are various committees, wherein a key committee, okay, is the management committee, the institute management committee. Because there are many decisions which are taken at the level of the director by the institute management committee, where director functions as the chairman of the IMC, the head of administration being the member secretary of the IMC, and there are various members nominated from different agricultural specialities by the president ICAR. Also, there are members of the scientific community of that institute. There is a special member from the finance cadre from a different institute, and that comprises of the management committee. So this is the broad overview of the different, the various setup of the various key functionaries in the ICR system. Next. Now we have different sections for delegation of powers. Under section 1, we have am I audible to all of you? Am I clear? Can anyone respond to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I hope I am not a bit fast. Okay, so I'll continue. So
Okay,
under
sir.
section 1, the title, extent of application, and the organization setup. There are the various definitions of the Minister of Agriculture of ICR, under ICR, the powers of the society, that is the ICR society, authority of the society. You can get a better overview of the authority of the society and the bylaws of the ICR. There is you can get that in a different book, which is named as the bylaws of the ICR society. I would not go into the details, but because when I told you initially, when we function at the level of UDC, all these details need not be well aware to the candidates, but at least you should have a broad overview of the organization that we are functioning in, so that you can perform better. Second section is the powers of the president and the vice president. Again, there we did not bother much about all these things. As I told you, the president of ICAR is the Honorable Agricultural Minister, and the vice president ICAR are the Honorable Minister of States. Under section 3, there are the powers of the governing body and the residuary financial powers. Some powers are over and above the purview of the FA or the Secretary ICR or even the DG ICR. Like I can correlate that with the Institute Management Committee. In an institute, we have the Honorable Director, we have the Head of Finance, and we have the Head of Administration. But sometimes, though the three key functionaries are there together and they agree on a certain issue, okay, by and large, it is about the development, and the procurement of some items, but those points have to be put up to the Institute Management Committee. Likewise, there are some issues at the level of the headquarters which have to be put up at the government body level, because the Honorable DG and the FA and the Secretary, though they are the members, they have to be put up at the level of the governing body. Okay. So moving on to the section 4, we have the powers of the Director General, who also functions as the Secretary there. As I will repeat, and you are well aware that FA there is additional secretary. Secretary ICR is also additional secretary. Powers of the Director General, the powers of the Deputy Director Generals, and other officers that are of the power of the secretary and FA. Then we have the powers of the chairman and secretary ASRB. That is the recruitment body. We did not also much bother about that. Then coming on to the powers of the director, the project directors and the zonal project directors, and of the management committees of ICR. All these things will be shared to you, at the end of the presentation. You can get a detailed look at those things later on, but now, as of now, we will just move on, point by point, a bit faster. Then we move on to the section 7, that is creation and abolition of post, powers vested in the bylaws of the society. Now here, creation of post means, first and foremost, it has to be there in the estimate finance committee of any institute. So if you want to create a post, it has to reflect in your EFC. Nowadays, that has become very difficult. Some years ago, because I can say that with my experience when I was posted as a AO here at NISM Bharamati, I created as many as 104 posts, because the post of the director of NISM was then already created by ICAR. So that time the strength was 105. So I created as many as 104 posts, including the assistants, the AO, FAO, and the senior registrar and the senior comptroller, and also the scientists and the technical posts, right from T1 to T3 and T6. So there in creation, I would want to share that when you, of course, I have a fair amount of doubt whether you will be able to get that opportunity to create a post now at the institute level, because fortunately for all of us, the major task of creation and the major task of recruitment is now handled by the headquarters. So because I would say that I use the word fortunate because the creation of posts is a very, very cumbersome task. I can share my experience that when I created one post, I had to give a justification of 28 points under administrative category and 14 points under finance category. So I had to give as many as 42-point justification for creation of one post. Now, if I have to create another post, I have to give another 42 points of justification. So you can imagine, if I created 104 posts, what was the number of justification that I gave. Now, I wouldn't want to boast in front of you that I knew everything, but I learned everything. I learned, from various colleagues and from headquarters and whether various other institutes in the ICR system, and that is how I was successful in. With the guidance from the headquarters and my senior colleagues, I could create as many as 104 posts. So that is a very cumbersome task. Now I think we are all saved of it. It is very difficult now to create even a one post, because after having that in the EFC, sanctioned in EFC, further you have to go and create it. Creation meaning that post further from the ICR headquarters has to go to the Ministry of Finance, Department of Expenditure, because all the money, all the funds come from Ministry of Finance. Next, oblique, you can see there it is abolition of posts. Now, the Cadre Review Committee currently, we had a meeting of the stakeholders, last week. So, if you can recall, the Cadre Review Committee is constituted there, and they are doing a very fantastic job at the headquarters level to streamline the bottleneck, to take care of the bottleneck and have a proper pyramid for the promotional avenues of all of us, from the multitasking staff to the LDCs and UDCs, assistant AAO, and up there, up to the level of joint secretary in finance as well as administration. The job of abolition of post is also important, because we have to show some matching savings at times, because Ministry of Finance would not just agree with all of our creation of posts and the upgradation also. So at times some posts have to be surrendered, so they have to be abolished. So that is why that abolition of post is also important. Then all these powers again, are vested with the appointing authority. So now, by and large, for many of the posts, the appointing authority is at the headquarters, and the powers are vested with the Honorable Director General. Moving on to the next section 8, general limitations on powers to sanction expenditure, excess expenditure, appropriation and reappropriation. Now the other topics, we will come to that. Here the expenditure powers, the sanctioning powers are, by and large, we have to understand, they are vested with the director of the institute. There may be some powers, to a small extent, which can be given to the head of the department or the head of the office, but by and large, all the powers, they are vested with the director of the institute. Now there is a word called appropriation and reappropriation. As some of you UDCs, my friends, you must be also working in the account section, so you must be well aware. My colleagues down there at CIFT, at Subin, and even Suni, they have worked in the account, so they know, okay. And all of you others also must be knowing that the reappropriation cannot be done haywire. It has to be from one head only. It cannot be done from one head to another head. Same way it goes for appropriation. Okay, that is, you cannot transfer one fund from another. It's like there are generally two heads. One is the capital head and one is the grant in aids. Okay, and so then grant in aids, you cannot that is general. From general you cannot put it to the capital. So by and large, you have to understand that. So that is very important for appropriation and reappropriation. Some powers which go beyond the powers of the director, then the matter has to go to the council at the assembly level. Even at times, some power further have to go from the DDG level to the DG level. Okay. Then you have the head of office redelegation. Here you have to understand, it is not delegation of powers, but it is the redelegation of powers. As I told you, the responsibility cannot be shared, but the powers are not transferred, but they are delegated further downline to the head of the division or the head of the office. So that is called as redelegation of powers. Okay, move on to the next slide, please. So far, so good. Can I just have some feedback from the my dear friends? Can someone please speak up? Are we going okay or is it fast? Can someone please speak up? Unmute your mic, someone. Sridhar.
Sir, okay, sir.
Okay, na Sathasivam?
Yes, sir. Going okay, sir.
Okay, fine. Chala, then we will move on. Thank you. Schedule of the delegation of powers in ICR. Under Schedule 1, we have the powers of the officers at the headquarters of the council. If you just go through your recent delegation of powers, it's available on the website. It's I wouldn't say a small, neither is it a big one. It's around 225 odd pages, where you can get the delegation of powers in detail. But I would tell that it is not necessary for all of you to go through all that in a very exhaustive and a comprehensive manner, for a simple reason that you do not know all. Okay, but then as you grow on, you will have to refer to that booklet, okay, which has been recently revised and edited. Okay, so that is the powers of the officer at the headquarters of the council. Schedule 2 is the powers delegated to the chairman and the secretary of the ASRB. Okay, it has been again revised recently. I don't know the exact date, but it has been revised. It is not as old as 1975. Under Schedule 3, we have the powers delegated to the directors of the research institute, that our institutes, we have the powers under the Schedule 3. This is under the ICR. Further, you will have different schedules. Altogether, I would say some 6 schedules that I will share with you, wherein you will have a detailed idea of what are the powers delegated. So that will be of much help to all of you for the day-to-day working on your files. Then you have the Schedule 4, powers of the project coordinators. Schedule 5, powers of the zonal coordinators. And Schedule 6, powers of the management committee of the ICAI. Move on to the next slide, please. Then we have definitions. As you all know, we have the ICR is a society. Okay. So then we have the council, that is the Indian Council of Agricultural Research. Then we have the governing body. Now, as I told you earlier, headed by the president and the chairperson being the Honorable DG. Then we have the president. The president here is, again, I'll repeat, okay, at times in an exam, when you will be eligible with 3 years of qualifying service to appear for a limited departmental competitive exam in your concerned institutes to write the exam for a assistant, sometimes in a haste, you might make a mistake, the president and the vice president. No, here the president is the Honorable Agricultural Minister and the vice president are the Honorable MOS. Then we have the Director General, we have the Member Finance, we have the Secretary, we have the Directors, we have the Chairman, the constituent units of the society. Okay, the year when it was established, the head of the department here is at the institute level, we have to understand the head of the department is the director. Head of the office is normally the senior most person in the administration, okay, who is the head of the office. And here the ASRB, we have Rule 25. That means if you go for the interview at the ASRB, then that Rule 25 covers your TADA. So that is Rule 25. You don't have to bother much about that. Move on to the next slide. PC? Mobile. Phone. Sorry guys, there is some Karma Yogi training also going on in the office, so there was a message from that. Sorry for the interruption. Moving on to the next slide is the definitions continued. Appropriation. We saw it in the earlier slide. There was 2 words, appropriation and reappropriation. Means the assignment to meet the specified expenditure. You have to understand that appropriation and reappropriation primarily and completely is related to the expenditure of funds. Okay, nothing beyond that. Don't correlate it with appropriate. Okay, here you can correlate it in a different sense, that appropriate means whether it is proper to meet the expenditure from that head or not. Then it goes beyond the power of the authority and it further goes to the authorities at the council and the assemblies. Next is the primary unit of appropriation. Now they come under the bylaws. There are various bylaws, and under 8A we have the headquarter administration, that is at the council. Then we have the ASRB, we have the research institutes, project directorates, national research centers, national bureaus and laboratories. We will just run through it, okay, so that you get a broad overview of what is what. Each project falling all under the All India Coordinated Projects, that is the ACRIP. You must be knowing the acronym ACRIP, okay. So those are the All India Coordinated Projects. Then you have the other projects other than the ACRIPs. They may be the institute projects or they may be the externally funded projects. Then we have the fellowships and scholarships. Those are for the students, okay, wherein which institutes they have some educational programs, the UG and PG and PhD programs undergoing under their purview, under the umbrella. For there are fellowships and scholarships. Then from appropriation we come to the word reappropriation, means transfer of funds from one head to the other head. Here I mean head is, I would rather say a subhead. I cannot use the word head. It would rather be a subhead, because if I by mistake I use the word head, then it will be wrongly construed by you. Okay, so I would say not the head but the subhead. इसको स्क्रॉल करते रहे ताकि वो जाएगा नहीं. हाँ ठीक है ना, पूरा करो याद से, नहीं तो मेरा वो मार्क्स ये नहीं मिलेंगे मेरे को. नहीं हाँ ठीक है. Okay, sorry guys. Again, coming back to the reappropriation means the transfer of funds from one primary unit of appropriation to another such unit. Here, the head can change, but at the appropriate level. Okay, and that powers they rest with the Honorable Director General. Now, here this contingent expenditure. Okay, there is the word contingent, unfortunately, is by and large used, pretty frequently, by all the staff. When I say staff, it is administrative staff or the scientists or even the technical personnel. They use it very sparingly. Okay, rather generally, I'm sorry, generously. It should be used very sparingly as and when there is a urgent need. But unfortunately, in the SAR system, it is used pretty generously. It should not be used. So that is why the term is contingent expenditure. From contingent expenditure, you will also recall a word called CB advance. There is a word called CB advance in our system. So what is CB advance? It is contingent bearing advance. But unfortunately, people draw advances and then don't settle it on time. So that becomes a very headache. So here at NISM, we follow a practice of no advances. So we don't have the headache of settlements. And we are running very smooth without that. You may be surprised to hear that, but without giving any advance to any employee, we are running very, very smooth. So if this practice is also adopted, I can understand at times, it is needed, but still, our system has been designed here in NISM Baramati under the aegis of our Honorable Director that without drawing any single advance, we are taking care of all the contingent expenditures and the urgent expenditures in a very smooth manner because we plan accordingly. Okay, so contingent expenditure means all incidental and other expenditure inclusive of the expenditure on stores which is incurred for management of an office. For the working of technical establishments such as laboratory, workshop, etc., does not include any classified expenditure. All those will come under the budget, okay? It will not be contingent. So classified expenditure as falling under specifically classified heads such as works or tools or plants or equipments, okay? So that is a classified expenditure. Contingent is a totally different ballgame. It is for the operational research expenses and some incidental expenditure which may arise from time to time. Next slide, please. Definitions continued. Miscellaneous expenditure. I'll share a joke with you just for a reason that it should not become monotonous and boring. This is the end of the day, so you must be tired, okay, with a full loaded working day in the last quarter of the financial year. I would want to share a joke with you. I was working here as an AO, and my finance counterpart was here then. He was a promotee colleague, from up there from the north. I would not name the institute also, and I would not want to name him. But those days, because there was no appropriate training for all the downline staff, I would say now you guys are very fortunate, okay? There is a card review happening, stakeholders are asked about all your problems, things are taken care of, by a large extent, proper training is given, and my colleague here, my finance counterpart, Dr. Das, takes care of such trainings, very regularly. So you guys are fortunate, but those days, since trainings were not given, this gentleman, my FAO, the then FAO, could not book expenditure under different heads. He will always put all expenditure under miscellaneous. And at the end of the year, it became so cumbersome of us for the annual accounts that we had to hire a CA to prepare the annual accounts. So that was the apathy, you know. So though it is a joke, you can take it very seriously that it cannot be, everything cannot be booked under miscellaneous expenditure. Here, miscellaneous expenditure means all expenditure other than expenditure falling under the category of pay and allowances, that is council staff, leave salary, pensions, grant in aids, PF contribution, work, stocks, tools, plants, and the like, and similar. Okay. So if you take care of this grant in aids, work, stocks, tools, plants, then I don't think much is remaining, you know. So then, if at all, even then something is there, then it can be booked under miscellaneous expenditure. Moving on to the next byte is recurring expenditure. Means the expenditure which is incurred at a periodical intervals. Okay. If you are running a project, you need a recurring expenditure. So if you see the project budget fund allocation, you will see that there is a recurring expenditure. Like your glassware and chemicals is also a recurring expenditure. The maintenance of various equipments and the maintenance of the various works, the buildings, is also a recurring expenditure. Non-recurring expenditure means expenditure other than the recurring expenditure. ज्यादातर जो वन टाइम होता है उसको रिकरिंग ही बोलते हैं, सॉरी नॉन रिकरिंग बोलते हैं. Then we have the secondary units of appropriation under the bylaws. We saw it earlier was bylaw 8A. This is 8B. So here, as I told you, it is capital and general. So here under capital, we have the works. The under works, there are major works and minor works. Whether it is major or minor, it has to be enumerated in the EFC and it has to be got approved from the council, without which it just cannot fall under capital, you know. It cannot fall under capital. It has to be approved under the EFC. So we have the works, under works, we have the land and the building. Under buildings comes the office building, residential building, minor works, equipments. Okay, the second is equipments, various equipments which are enlisted. Under equipments, there will be major equipments and minor equipments. There are some tabletop equipment required by the newly joined scientists, or some also old scientists. The senior scientists will also require some tabletop equipment because of the wear and tear. So that will fall under the minor equipments. Then you have the IT, all the computers related thing will come under the IT. We have the library, books and journals, though there are e-books nowadays and e-journals. There are some physical books also and journals which have to be stocked now for the ready reference of the scientists and the students in the libraries. Then we have the vehicles and vessels. Here vessels means you have the ships for all those institutes working in the fisheries assembly. They know it that there are some vessels. There are some boats or fishing boats, whether small or big, they are called as vessels. Then we have the livestock. People working in the animal sciences division, they will know that they have the livestock. They have the various, you know, sheep and the cattle. They are called the livestock. Then we have the furniture and fixtures, and then there is others. Move on to the next topic. Definitions continued. Secondary units of appropriation. Establishment expenses, that's salaries, establishment charges, wages, overtime. This is overtime. Earlier it used to be given to the regular staff also. You know, here it is the MTAs or the drivers. By and large it is given to them. Okay, or maybe some attendants for the higher officials. They can be also given to them. Pensions and other retirement benefits, loans and advances. You have the different loans. If you want a vehicle loan or a HBA, there's a house building advance. Then you have the loans for the computers. Okay, so those are the loans and advances. Advances will come for the different categories. You know, traveling allowance, that is domestic TA and the transfer TA. If people move on from transfer from one institute to another, then you have the transfer TA comes into play. When the foreign TA, the senior officials, the scientists, normally when they go on the foreign deputation, they need the foreign TA. Then under research and operational expenses, we have the research expenses and operational expenses. That is taken care of these small equipments, minor equipments that can also be booked under research expenses and operational expenses. That is for the chemicals and glasswares. Even chemical and glassware can be booked under research expenses. Then coming on to the next point, fourth, administrative expenses, infrastructure, communication, repair and maintenance. That is for the office building and the vehicles. And D is others, that is excluding TA. Okay, for administrative expenses. Move on to the next slide. I'm just quickly going through it because we have a few more other slides. Okay, and the time is short, so that's why I'm going in a bit faster manner. Then we have the secondary units of appropriation, that is the revenue. Now we have given all institutes are given a revenue target, and we have to generate that revenue. So then we have the miscellaneous expenses. Revenue can be generated by HRD. Like this training we are generating, taking care. So by you, since being the ICR employees, you are not charged for any fee, but there are some trainings wherein the training personnel, they are from the trainees are from the outside ICR system where they are charged. So that under HRD, some revenue can be generated. Okay. Then there are other items such as fellowships and scholarships, publicity and exhibitions. If you publish some books and you have a sale of that, you can. And for exhibitions, if you charge some amount, a small amount, a token amount for the footfall, you can generate some revenue out of it. Then you can generate revenue out of the guest house and some other miscellaneous things. You can generate the revenue. Okay. The thorough understanding of the primary unit of appropriation and that of the secondary unit of appropriation is a prerequisite for the purpose of appropriation or reappropriation of funds, without which no expenditure can be incurred against a sanction. Okay, so don't bother much about it, okay, because that does not, bother you for your working, okay. So just a small overview or just knowing what is appropriation, reappropriation, that should serve your purpose. Move on to the next slide. The residuary financial powers. Here, there are some financial powers which are vested with the governing body, which even the Honorable DG cannot exercise, the FA or the Secretary cannot exercise. They have to be discussed in the GB meeting and then they can exercise those powers. So, that is the residuary financial powers. Powers vested under the rules and bylaws and those delegated thereunder. They are vested with the different authorities of ICR unless otherwise provided by any general or specified rule. So, if not specified, then they will be termed as residuary financial powers. Here you can see the schedules and the links provided for reference. At the end of this presentation, there are the schedules given, wherein those are very important for you. That is why I have not mentioned here now in this till this slide. I have not mentioned it. I have purposely put them together at the end of the presentation. Those will be shared with you. You can download it, take a printout, and you can almost refer to all those schedules. There are as many as 6, and they are primarily and largely concerned with all the functionaries and authorities at the institute level. So you did not bother much about the council level and the GB level. At the institute level, whatever is needed and essential for you, I have shared them at the end of the presentation. Next slide. Section 2, powers of the president. I don't think you can just browse through it later on, okay. Now I don't have to go through it in deep, okay, and it is not as important for you as of now, okay. Move on. Next. Okay, here just a brief browsing. Subject to any other order that may be passed by the government of India, the president, the vice president, and the decision of the GB. Here again, I will repeat: the president and vice president are the honorable ministers, and the decision of the GB, the DG as a principal executive officer Okay, he is the CEO of the ICAR, of the society, is responsible for what? Proper administration of the affairs and the funds of the society, prescribing the duties of all employees of the council, coordinating and exercising general supervision, overall research activities in agriculture, animal husbandry, and the activities of the council, and advising the government of India, state government, and the administration of the union territories on all matters connected with agriculture and the animal husbandry referred to him. The DG has some powers as the Secretary of the Government of India, subject to rules and the bylaws of the IC, because the Honorable DG is also the Secretary there. So, if the Honorable DG visits any institute, any state, he is given the privilege and the treatment of the state guest. Because if you read the point 1, 2, 3 and 4 of subhead A under section 4, he has to take care of all these activities across the country. So, by virtue of being secretary there, when he visits any state or any institute, he is the state guest. The DG shall exercise the power to write off losses in the respect of the funds of the council to extent prescribed as per the Government of India rules. Now you have to understand, they have mentioning to the extent possible as per the GOI rules, because though he is the DG and secretary there, he is not given all the powers. So here it is very pertinent and necessary for all of you and me to understand that no authority is given complete powers. Powers are delegated and redelegated. Further, all purchases, sales, or alterations of investments shall be effected on the authority of the DG, and the same will be executed by secretary of any other officer authorized by the secretary. Okay. Further, you don't have to bother much. Move on to the next slide. Powers of the Director General continued. Property owned by council which is no longer required by council may be disposed by the DG, provided that disposal of the immovable property is made with the prior approval of the GB. You see, the property cannot be disposed just like that. Prior approval of the GB is needed. Okay. So here what we have to understand is that for some decisions to be also taken at the level of the institute, the director has to be consulted, if at all, by chance. I am telling you, by chance. Any head of office or head of finance, of course, I am very sure no one will tell you such things. But by mistake, if they say, kar lo, chalo, main dekh lunga, no, don't do it. Okay, don't do it, because it is not, the powers are not vested with the head of finance or the head of administration. Some powers are vested with the directors also. The DG shall have full power to appropriate sum provided in the sanctioned estimates during the financial year. Understand? Here, regarding the funds, the powers are vested with the DG to meet expenditure of each item. Any unspent balance shall lapse and shall not be available for utilization in the following year. So now you have to understand that now every fortnight or maybe every week, SMD will be taking a review of the expenditure, because no money unspent will be given back to you. It has to be refunded to the Ministry of Finance, and then the DG has to answer for that. So whatever is our budget, it has to be exercised in totality. Not even a single penny has to be returned. So we have to be very cautious here. When we are undergoing this training, we have to also not to forget that now we are in the last quarter and the utilization of funds should be complete. Okay, now we have to plan. Maybe the funds for the last quarter have not yet been received by some institutes. It will be soon coming to all of you, and we have to be ready with all our procedures to spend every single penny, not till the 31st of March, but well before 15th of March. If you are in the position to spend it before 28th of February, you are lucky. Maybe the DDGs can give you some more fund. Okay, so you will be a lucky institute, and the director will be happy. I can recall that when I was at CIFT and with all my staff, with their efficient and timely working, we could spend all the amount. And I want to again recall those moments that our directors will host a lunch party for all the admin and finance staff for their excellent working. Okay. Moving on to the next point, powers of the secretary. Then, since we are short of time, we'll move on to the next point. This you can read later on. Powers of the secretary, all of you can read it later on. Next slide. Powers of the chairman of the secretary SRB, powers of the directors of the institutes. I will be sharing all this with you from section 6 down onwards. It will be shared to you. Powers of the project coordinators, powers of the zonal coordinators. Next. Powers of the management committee of the ICR. Okay, we have the institute management committee. The powers have been delegated. Consideration of proposals for your 5-year plan and annual plan. Periodic review of the development schemes. Consideration of proposals for annual budget. Consideration of items for which are beyond the powers of the directors of the institute, which has to go to the SMD. Policy issues relating to institutes, including rights and obligations of the staff. And there are some issues raised by the staff, which at times may not be handled by the IGSC. So those may not be in total purview of the director. They have to be referred to the SMD. Okay, so whatever is approved by the institute management committee, it has to be ratified by the SMD. Consideration of action taken on the recommendation of the grievance cell and the institute joint staff council. There are some grievances when you are working, everything cannot be goody-goody. सब कुछ बढ़िया नहीं हो सकता है. कहीं किसी से क्या कहते हैं, हम गिले शिकवे हो सकते हैं, होने भी चाहिए. ओके, ऐसे नहीं कि सब कुछ बढ़िया चलता है. अगर सब कुछ बढ़िया चलता है मतलब ठीक नहीं है, कहीं कुछ गड़बड़ है. तो सब कुछ बढ़िया नहीं चलना चाहिए. और ज्यादा, लेकिन मैं ये कहूंगा कि हम काम करते समय हमें वी कैन हैव डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियंस. मतभेद होते हैं, बट मनभेद नहीं होने चाहिए. There should not be difference in minds. So we have to come together. There are different forums. There is a grievance cell. There is IGSE. You have to go and meet your bosses, your seniors. You can discuss and resolve the issues. Don't keep a grudge in your mind. Okay, मन में कोई ऐसी दुविधा नहीं रखनी चाहिए. मिलो, चाय पे चर्चा करो. ज्यादा समय चाय पे चर्चा करने का मतलब ये नहीं कि आप कैंटीन में बहुत ज्यादा समय बिताओ. ओके, बट अच्छी चर्चा होनी चाहिए, हेल्थी चर्चा होनी चाहिए. और जो भी मसले है वो हम चर्चा से उसका हल निकाल सकते हैं. ठीक है, तो these are the powers listed in the schedule 6. Those are the powers of the institute management committee. Move on to the next slide, please. Section 7, again going back to our earlier discussion on creation of posts, abolition of posts. Those powers are vested under the bylaws of the council. Okay. Again, section 8, general limitations of powers to sanction expenditure, restrictions on appropriations, reappropriations, powers of the excess expenditure. If by chance, at times there is a need at some institute, and the expenditure is more, then it has to be ratified by the governing body. Even the Honorable DG cannot do it. Okay, though he is the chairman of the governing body, it has to be ratified in the governing body. Then the head of office, re-delegation of powers. Look, understand one thing. After point 4, the point 5 says re-delegation of powers. All the powers are re-delegated by the head of the department, that is the head of the institute, that is the head of that is the director. They are re-delegated. They are not transferred to the head of the office. General directions, powers re-delegated are, powers delegated are subject to budget provision and observance of procedure and the general direction in the JFR, FRSR, and the orders issued by the government of India from time to time. Now you have to understand that power दे दिया मुझे head of office में तो मैं कुछ भी करूंगा क्या? नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होता है. Again we are bound by the rules and the procedures which are given by the higher ups from time to time. So you have to follow the GFR, follow the FRSR, and all other guidelines that we receive from the council and the government. When I say from the government, then all these rules and all these guidelines are applicable to the ICR institutes and all of us. and the term used is mutandis. Jahan jaise, tab taise. Okay. So as and when you have to apply it in toto under the rules. Move on to the next slide, please. Ye sab limits are, I would say, redundant now because the limits have been increased. Okay. So we don't have to think much about it. The limits have been increased. So I will just work on it and try and get you with the enhanced limits. Okay, so we'll move on to the next slide. Move on to the next slide. Appropriation, reappropriation, we have to understand funds shall not be appropriated or reappropriated to meet expenditure which has not been sanctioned. Okay, पहले से ही अगर सैंक्शन नहीं है, कोई ईएफसी भी नहीं है, तो आप कहीं भी appropriation, reappropriation नहीं कर सकते. There are some things which can be done at the level of the director, provided there is a prior sanction for it. There is a prior mention in the approved EFC. No appropriation is reappropriation is allowed from plan funds and non-plan. Okay, and vice versa. कहीं भी ऊपर नीचे नहीं हो सकता है. It is not allowed. Completely not allowed. The director of the institute or any other officer so empowered by the governing body may reappropriate funds from one secondary unit to another. Look, understand it is the word is one secondary unit and it is not one primary unit. That means under one head it can be reappropriated. It cannot be changed from one head to another head. Under one head it can be reappropriated. No reappropriation allowed to augment provisions. सैलरी वेजेस टीए ओटीए नो, यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं हो सकता है. जो आपको चाहिए, जो आपका सरेंडर बचता है पैसा, we have to give it back to the council. Okay, here reappropriation is strictly not allowed. Saving in the revenue section not available for reappropriation in capital section and vice versa. Revenue capital में यहाँ वहाँ आप वैसे नहीं कर सकते हो. Okay, it has to be surrendered to the council. Move on to the next slide, please. So that is all. I would say this was pretty fast. It was a broad overview of the powers that are delegated in the ICR system, a broad overview of the ICR system, the functionaries, okay, the key functionaries right from the Honorable President to the head of office, okay, and the project directorates and the head of the divisions at the institute level. So there was a broad overview. Also, now if we move on to the just next. I the channel. PDF. Huh? Share. I'm trying to share you these PDFs. Okay, here, if you see the schedule 2, okay, I have purposely mentioned schedule 2 because schedule 1 deals with all the powers at the headquarters. So this is for the directors. Here you will get a broad overview of what are the powers with the director, what are the powers with the project directorates, at the Ataris, at the zonal project directorates. So you will get a broad overview of this. This you can go through at a later date whenever you want for your making your working easier and simpler, or when some of you guys will be writing the exams. So this will help you at that time. Now move on to the next schedule. This is very comprehensive. You know, the powers of the director. Next up. दूसरा है ना तो हाँ दूसरा है ना. This will give you a broad overview of the powers of the director. Then what is that? Schedule 3. This is for the board of management or the IMC. In the national institutes, it is the board of management, and at the other institutes, it is the IMC. Okay, this is
Sir, hello.
Yeah, please, Rahul, please.
Nothing is seen, sir. Only folder view is visible.
I'm not trying to explain these schedules. This
Okay.
will be shared to you.
Okay.
This will be shared to you. This is under PDF.
Okay.
Okay, that is the reason you are not able to see it.
Okay.
Okay, and for your future reference, I have given you the schedules with detailed powers. Okay, and if you download it and browse through it, you will be getting a complete overview of all the powers. Okay,
Okay, sir.
so that will help you. Move on to the schedule 4, because I had to cut it from some other book and paste it here. So, and it is very exhaustive. So I could not have put it under the PowerPoint. That is the reason you are not able to see it. The schedule 4, it pertains to the joint directors in the National Institute. There are some joint directors in the National Institute. There are some regional heads of the research stations. So it pertains to that. Move on to the schedule 5. Schedule 5 pertains to the delegation of powers of the joint director admin, the senior registrar, senior controller, and the CEO, senior grade. Okay, these are basically the powers vested with the head of the admin and head of finance. In the senior most capacity at the bigger institutes. Okay, these are the powers. You can refer them later. We will move on to the schedule 6. These are the powers of the head of office at all institutes. Okay, these are the powers of the head of office. We'll move on to the next. Schedule 7. These are the powers of the PIs of the different externally and institute funded projects. Take that. What the other? The national and international agencies project funded by the private sector. ICR projects such as revolving fund scheme. There are such schemes, institutes. So, what are the powers vested with the PIs? There are some consultancy projects which takes care of the training and contract research. So, these are the powers for those PIs. Schedule 8. This is the different thing. नाही झालं खाली कसं काय आलं झालं हो गया ऊपर जाओ हाँ पीपीटी है ये हो गया वो सब हो गया शेड्यूल 2 खाली पर शेड्यूल 2 है चेक कर हो गया कुछ नहीं सर अब वो पीपीटी में जाके खत्म कर ठीक है इधर शेअर करायच्या अगोदर चेक करायला लागेल ते दोन्ही सेम आहेत. So this is all, dear friends. Now we can have a brief question answer if there is any. I am sure that most of you must be traveling